Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Glidden. I am the Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council, and for today, I will be chairing today's meeting. Often we start our City Council meetings with resolutions, honorary resolutions, to be able to recognize important events or people, and we have 3 such resolutions today, and for the first one, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Goodman and Councilmember Fry for the presentation.
Just take a look at it. So this is acknowledging the many, many years of Hubert White on Nicollet Mall and in the city of Minneapolis. I'm just going to tell a very brief story of my own about the store. So I before I worked at the city council for the city of Minneapolis, I worked in the IDS Center. And during my lunch break, I would head down. I'd hit up the cafe that's in the base of the IDS in Crystal Court. And then after finishing up, I would walk over and check over just the beautiful clothing that all of you have. I mean, these ties of every single color, red and orange and black and yellow. And I had mentioned this to my girlfriend, now wife. And she's like, well, why don't you buy one? And I never did, and I never did, and I never did. Finally, on Hanukkah, she got me one of these ties, and it is now one of the favorite ones that I have. I wear it on a regular basis. So it's a beautiful store. Your contributions to the city are everlasting, and we're so proud to have you in our city. Yeah.
Well, I'm just absolutely delighted to do something really positive at a time when a lot of people haven't been feeling very positive. And although it might seem not as significant as all of the items we're going to take up in our council meeting today, to a lot of people it's incredibly significant to have a retail business operating on the Nicollet Mall in a family-owned capacity for 100 years. It really is an accomplishment that we want to honor today. So I'd ask Bob to come on up. Declaring November 18th, Hubert White Day. Whereas this month, Hubert White, the downtown Minneapolis menswear boutique, marks its 100th year in business, making it one of Minnesota's oldest family-owned and operated businesses. And whereas in 1916, Hubert Burt White opened a haberdashery in St. Paul, soon to expand to focus to include clothing. And in 1936, the company expanded to open in Minneapolis, a store in the Radisson Hotel. Whereas after World War II, Burt's son Hubert Bill White Jr. joined the family business, and whereas in 1950s, the Minneapolis store moved to Marquette Avenue, where it operated for 50 years. And whereas in the 1970s, grandson Bob Light, along with Brad Sherman, joined the firm, and whereas the St. Paul store closed in 1987, leaving Minneapolis as the sole location for this wonderful business. And whereas in 2000, the Minneapolis store moved to its current location in the IDS Crystal Court. And whereas Hubert White is not only the oldest menswear store in Minnesota, it's one of the oldest in the entire country. And whereas in 2014, Esquire magazine named Hubert White one of the men's best specialty stores in the country. Whereas Hubert White believes their longevity is due to a dedicated personal service, the ability to evolve, and the desire to stay relevant. And whereas Bob and Brad have successfully broadened Hubert White's scope while never betraying the store's base as a client-driven organization where customers are friends and staff is family. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City of Minneapolis and the City Council that we declare Friday, November 18th as Hubert White Day in the City of Minneapolis, recognizing the important role local businesses play in our economy, building relationships, developing connections, making our city a friendlier, more stylish, and vibrant place to live, work, and play. So I want to just congratulate you. I'm just very moved by this commitment of your family and just give you a chance to say a few things, perhaps about our beautiful ties.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone, particularly for wearing the ties. You all look very nice, and it's a nice gesture. I love the story, and it's just an honor. And I know that I hear the phrase "my granddad and my dad" would be so very pleased. So, thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. Thank you. For our second resolution, I want to thank Councilmember Borsami for working on this with me. It is a resolution entitled Condemning Violence and Hate Speech, Expressing Solidarity with Muslims and all those targeted for their ethnicity, race, or religion. I'm going to invite Councilmember Borsami to maybe make some introductory comments, and then I will read the resolution, and then we will have some additional comment.
Thank you very much, Council Vice President Glidden. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abdi Warsami, and I'm a council member representing the 6th Ward in the city of Minneapolis. And the Islamophobia resolution today is something that came about not just because of the current political climate that we find ourselves in, but because of the growing unease amongst Muslim Americans with regards to the rhetoric that has been amped up over the last few years. Muslims have been in the United States since the beginning of the United States. There are stories that suggest that there were Muslim soldiers in George Washington's army. The first country to recognize the United States' independence in 1777 was the Hashemite Kingdom of Morocco. So the relationship between Muslims and the United States is one that has been long-standing and fruitful in the past. There is also a fact that the Muslim world is 2 billion strong, 60 nations that we trade with, that we have bilateral relationships with. And if there is a clash of civilizations, it is one that will not be beneficial to anyone, least of all our country. I would like to thank my colleagues on the council, the mayor of Minneapolis, Betsy Hodges, and also the residents of the city of Minneapolis that has made my community, the East African community, the Somali community, welcome over the last 20 years. To me, Minneapolis is home. It's where my 3 children were born. It's the first place that I purchased a home, and it's the first place in my 38 years of life that I felt at ease. I was a child who was a refugee, who grew up as a refugee, raised by a single mother in England, and who throughout my adult life, it has been very difficult for my community and for my family. And Minneapolis and Minnesota is a special place for us, and I would like to thank the council for this resolution.
Thank you. Whereas the United States was founded by immigrants, many fleeing religious persecution, who enshrined freedom of religion as one of our nation's fundamental legal and ethical principles. And whereas the history of Islam in the United States began even before the country's founding, when African Muslims were enslaved and brought to the Americas, where they later helped in numerous ways to build this country, sacrificing their lives in every major war from the Revolutionary War on. And whereas there are more than 3 million Muslims living in the United States today, and approximately 50,000 living in Minneapolis, making invaluable contributions to our economy, our social and political life, and our culture. And whereas, according to the Minnesota Historical Society, records show Muslim presence in Minnesota since the 1880s. And whereas the Muslim community in Minneapolis includes individuals with roots in Africa, South Asia, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East, as well as members of the Nation of Islam and other groups. And whereas there has been an unprecedented backlash since 9/11 in the form of hate crimes and employment discrimination toward Muslim Americans and those perceived as Muslims, and whereas Muslim Americans and those perceived as Muslims are frequently the targets of abusive and discriminatory police practices sanctioned by the state, including surveillance in their neighborhoods and places of worship, and whereas we are saddened and outraged at the recent escalation of hateful rhetoric against Muslims, those perceived to be Muslims, immigrants, and all people of color, and we are particularly concerned to see political figures and elected government officials leading this escalation in order to gain power. And whereas in the face of extreme bigotry and violence, Muslim communities and their leaders are using the language and teachings of Islam to promote peace, justice, and service, and their institutions play an essential societal role providing charitable and humanitarian services to those in need. And whereas we, as elected representatives of the people, have a special responsibility not to stay silent in the face of hate, violence, and discrimination against any of our constituents or countrymen. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council hereby support efforts to further religious inclusion by 1, condemn all hateful speech and violent action directed at Muslims, those perceived to be Muslims, immigrants, and people of color. 2, categorically reject political tactics that use fear to manipulate voters or gain power or influence. 3, pursue a policy agenda that affirms civil and human rights and ensures that those targeted on the basis of race, religion, or immigration status can turn to government without fear of recrimination. And 4, reaffirm the value of a pluralistic society composed of multiple cultures and the inalienable right of every person to live and practice their faith without fear. Signed by the Mayor, the Council President, and the City Clerk on behalf of the City of Minneapolis. Thank you.
And I would like to hand this, give Council President the chance to hand this over to Osman Igal, the Director of Darul Uloom Islamic Center in St. Paul.
I don't want to say more than what Abdi and Elizabeth to say. Thank you, and the Council, and thank all of you. My name is Osman Igal, Darul Uloom Islamic Center Director. Again, thank you very much for this resolution. I know you know what we know, the Islamophobia in these days. So all of you, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I would like to invite up all those who are here in to help honor Transgender Awareness Month from the Transgender Issues Work Group. Who would like to come up with me? You can come on up, Sarah. Come on. And Patrick, too. So this is a resolution, and I think at the City of Minneapolis, this is a continuation of our work to institutionalize our support of transgender community members and think of how we're changing our practices and policies at the city to be more supportive of all those in our community and working at the City of Minneapolis. So I am going to go ahead and read this resolution, and then I will ask if folks would like to introduce themselves so we know who's participating in the work group, and we can say a little bit more about the work of the Transgender Issues Work Group. This is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council approving the month of November 2016 to be recognized as Transgender Awareness Month in the City of Minneapolis. Whereas the City of Minneapolis is committed to creating a community in which transgender and gender nonconforming individuals thrive without fear of discrimination, persecution, and violence. And whereas, according to a study conducted by the University of California, Los Angeles School of Law, 700,000 people in the United States identify as transgender or gender nonconforming. And whereas the week of November 14 is Trans Awareness Week, bringing together individuals and organizations across the United States to raise the visibility, celebrate the accomplishments, and raise awareness around the issues faced by the transgender community. And whereas November 20th is observed as Transgender Day of Remembrance after the 1998 murder of transgender and education advocate Rita Hester. And whereas the International Trans Day of Remembrance reports that between January 1st, 2008 and September 30th, 2016, a total of 2,264 murders of transgender people have been reported in 68 countries across the world. And whereas 2016 has been the deadliest year on record for transgender individuals, according to Advocate, with 24 lives lost to violence, the vast majority of them being Black transgender individuals. And whereas, according to the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, anti-transgender violence affects youth in schools, 16.2% of trans students experience assault and 32.5% report physical harassment. And whereas, according to the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs, trans women, often survivors of hate violence, are also more likely to experience police violence, physical violence, decimation, harassment, sexual violence, threats, and intimidation compared to those who do not self-identify as transgender women. And whereas in 2015, President Barack Obama made history by being the first president to mention transgender people in a State of the Union address. And whereas in 2016, the Minneapolis Transgender Issues Work Group developed a trans-inclusive employment strategy, as well as the creation of a vehicle to provide resources to community members. And whereas the Minneapolis Transgender Issues Work Group hosted the 3rd annual Minneapolis Trans Equity Summit in 2016, to support and continue to raise awareness of the issues critical to the transgender community. And whereas in 2016, the formation of a Transgender Equity Council was approved by the mayor and city council to continue engaging the trans community in Minneapolis. And whereas the city of Minneapolis understands dehumanization leads to violence, therefore highlighting the talent and brilliance of the transgender community is crucial to its survival. And whereas the city of Minneapolis is committed to policy development and initiatives to advance equity for transgender individuals, now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and city council officially recognize the month of November as Transgender Awareness Month in the city of Minneapolis. And I'll just note that we do not have with us today our chair of the Transgender Issues Work Group, Philippe Cunningham, who is a policy aide for the mayor of Minneapolis as he is out of town on city business, but we want to thank him for his leadership. And I will maybe ask if folks would like to introduce themselves, and I think there might be a couple people who would like to make some special comment. So, all right.
I am Patrick Sadler, Policy Aide to Councilmember Lisa Goodman.
I am Sarah Lopez, Policy Aide for Councilmember Elizabeth Glidden.
I'm Nuria Rivera-Vandermeid. I'm the Deputy City Coordinator for the city.
I am Jen White, Policy Aide to Council President Barbara Johnson.
I'm Suzanne Murphy, Policy Aide to Councilmember Andrew Johnson.
I am Christina Kendrick. I work for the Department of Neighborhood and Community Relations.
Destiny Shang, work for Human Resources.
Roxanne on the Trans Commission and the board chair of the Minnesota Transgender Health Coalition. I'd just like to thank the whole working group and committee. It's been a great couple of 3-4 years now, and I feel really privileged and honored to sit amongst great fellows and do the work.
Good morning. I am calling to order the meeting of the Minneapolis City Council for November 18th. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Palmisano.
Present.
Gordon.
Here.
Kano.
Here.
Reich.
Here.
Bender.
Here.
Yang.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Quincy is absent. Warsami is absent. Goodman.
Present.
President Johnson is absent. Vice President Glidden.
Here.
There are 10 members present.
Thank you. Next, we have the adoption of the agenda, and we do have a motion by Councilmember Gordon to amend the agenda to include, under the order of resolutions, a resolution standing with all members of our One Minneapolis. Do I need a second for Councilmember Gordon's? Yes, so a second on that, please. You made the motion, so second. Thank you. All in approval, please say aye. Aye. And then we need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councilmember Gordon, will you do my first motions and then, and you have an additional motion?
Certainly.
Okay.
It looks like
before we do that, I apologize. We have a second amendment needed to the agenda. Councilmember Fry has a motion, and would you please describe that, Councilmember Fry?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I am moving to amend the agenda to delete item number 3 under the order of new business relating to a certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 419 Washington Avenue North, with the attempt of having the proposal come back in and to come into compliance with the guidelines and the code, and to have it done that way.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Fry to amend the agenda to delete item number 3 under the order of new business. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Now we are back to the adoption of the agenda. And Councilmember Gordon, I think, has moved the adoption. Is there a second, please? Second. And there's a second. All in approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's the adoption of the agenda as amended. Next, we have acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 4th, 2016.
So moved.
Can I get a second on that? Second. All right. All in approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Finally, we have referral of petitions, communications, and reports to proper committees.
So moved.
Second. Thank you to my team. All in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And now we are on to reports of standing committees. And first we have the Committee of the Whole, and Councilmember Andrew Johnson will be giving that report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee of the Whole brings one item forward. It's an amendment and reinstatement of the city's HRA plan. I'll go ahead and move that item and stand for any questions.
All right. Councilmember Johnson has moved approval of the amendment and reinstatement of City Minneapolis Health Reimbursement Arrangement Plan. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have the Community Development and Regulatory Services report by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing forward 7 items for approval this morning. Items mainly are housekeeping. Item number 1 and others, as well as our liquor, business, and gambling license applications. I'll note we're decertifying 11 tax increment districts and 2 hazardous substance subdistricts, as well as making modifications to some TIF districts to support our housing goals and policies. Lastly, I'll note that there is finally agreement between CPED and the Finance Department with regard to our conduit bond policy, which was both in Ways and Means and CD. I will move items 1 through 7 for approval this morning.
Thank you. Councilmember Goodman has moved items 1 through 7. Is there any discussion on any of those items? Does anybody want to take any item off? I'm not seeing any, so clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have Health, Environment, and Community Engagement report by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee is bringing 2 items forward for approval today. The first is approving the appointment of Dr. Paul Pentel, Ward 7 for Seat 7 to the Public Health Advisory Committee for a 2-year term starting January 1, 2017 and ending December 31st, 2018. The second item is accepting a grant from the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to our Animal Care and Control Department for staff training in the amount of $5,000. And I will move both items forward for approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Gordon has moved the 2 items from the Health, Energy, and Community Engagement report. Anyone want to discuss any of those items? I'm not seeing any. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have the Intergovernmental Relations Report by Councilmember Kano.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. And today we bring 2 items forward for approval. The first item is a second amendment to the airport consent decree. And the second item is the adoption of the 2017 legislative policy positions. I would like to move those items forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Kano has moved those 2 items. Anyone want to take either of those items off for discussion? Seeing none, all in approval, please say, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report by Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we have 4 items for approval. The first item is the Joint Powers Agreement for Minnesota Task Force 1 Urban Search and Rescue Team. The second item is a contract amendment with HCMC Emergency Medical Service Education Division for EMS instruction to the fire department. The third item is the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant Training Reimbursement. And the fourth item is a fire truck donation to the Firefighters Hall and Museum. And I will move all 4 items for approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Yang has moved all 4 items. Any discussion on any of those items? Not seeing any. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
Next, we have the Transportation and Public Works Report given by Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will give today's report from the committee. We have Transportation Public Works for 11 items, and I'll be giving this with probably wearing a Hubert White tie. Item 1 is a non-governmental tax-exempt parcel street operation fee, 2017 assessments. Item 2 is similarly a tax-exempt parcel street maintenance, 2017 assessments. Item 3 is a 2016 levy, various public works department special assessments. Item 4 is the uniform assessment rates established for 2017. Item 5 is the Southwest Light Rail Transit Project Support and Funding Agreement number 1 with the project folks to complete that project. Item 6 is the Northern Lights Express Joint Powers Agreement to continue working with that group. Following items are referred reports to the Ways and Means Committee. Item 7 is the Anderson School Pedestrian Crossing and Bikeway Project, and that's for the layout approval and grant acceptance. Item 8 is the funding agreement with the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization for Southeast Watershed Modeling Project, and that's an enhancement to our base project with the department. Under item 9 is the 49th Avenue North and Queen Avenue North Bridge over Shingle Creek Project, contract amendment with PCI Roads. Item 10 is the sanitary sewer cleaning contract amendment with Sewer Services Incorporated. And the final item is the bid for parking ramp intercom systems project, and that was acceptance of a low bid for that work. I will move all items for approval as submitted.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Reich has moved all items submitted, items 1 through 11. Anyone want to take anything off? Seeing no discussion, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have the Ways and Means Report, which will be given by Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 15 items for approval this morning. The first three are legal settlements. The fourth is a contract amendment for Human Capital Consulting. The next two are grants to accept from the Bush Foundation and Casey Family Programs. Item number 7 is a contract for commissioning services for Eastside Storage and Maintenance Facilities. Item number 8 is termination of a railroad easement at 340 27th Avenue Northeast. Item number 9 is security guard services for city facilities. Item number 10, I'm going to move with the amendment from Council Vice President Glidden that is in your packets and before you today. Item number 11 is the 3-year contract amendment for police ID card supplies and services. The next 3 are software contracts, and item number 15